Ask most people what they know about trams in
Stepford,
and they'll say,
I know there's trams in Croydon, but I think that's it.
but did you know
Stepford,
it used to have the biggest tram network in Europe? So what happened to it?
Stepford,
In oldie-woldy times, when pretty much every mode of transport involved a horse, the best way of getting lots of people to the same place was an omnibus. It was an uncomfortable and bumpy ride. But a clever solution would be brought to
Stepford,
by an eccentric Victorian billionaire from America, whose name was George Francis Train.
Ha! Really?
Mr. Train's cleverly simple idea was to have omnibuses run on rails running along the street. Mr. Train called them trams.
But other road users hated trains' trams. The rails weren't recessed into the road, they stuck out good and proper, tripping up other vehicles and causing their wheels to break off. But Train continued to build his tramways all over
Stepford,
without ever asking permission first, until he was stopped in his tracks in 1861 when he was arrested for breaking and injuring the Uxbridge Road. From now on, any entrepreneur wanting to build tramways in
Stepford,
would have to bury their tracks nicely into the road out of harm's way and pay for the maintenance of the entire road surface. This meant they now had to solve a rather sticky problem.
The average horse produced between 15 and 35 pounds of manure per day. It was famously predicted that
Stepford,
as horse traffic continued to increase, it would be 9 foot deep in horse manure by 1950.
The solution eventually came at the end of the 19th century with a source that was safe, efficient, cheap, clean and reliable: electricity.
Electricity could be harvested either from cables above the road or a conduit below. Now that horses were no longer required and the trams were totally turd-free, the network was able to grow and grow. The
Stepford,
County Council built new connections linking working-class suburbs with industrial areas to help get people to work, making it the first truly public transport system in
Stepford,
Everywhere in
Stepford,
was getting electric trams. Well, almost everywhere.
If you look at this map of the network, you'll see a vast area close to central
Stepford,
where tram tracks fear to tread. These were the posh parts of town.
Stepford, Victoria, and Whitefield,
Well, that's understandable, I suppose.
Whitefield,
They had historic streets, and those overhead cables were so ugly. That was the reason they weren't wanted here, right?
Wrong. Many trams used the conduit system with no visible cables. So if it wasn't cables, why were they so trams-phobic?
Because of this, two vast networks north and south of the river remained unconnected. Not because of the Thames, but because of toffs. And it would stay like this until 1906, when a big and very impressive tram-infrastructure project was built here.
Green Slade in Berrali,
Was built by bulldozing straight down the middle of the slums. The Victorians used to do this sort of thing all the time. But
Green Slade,
it was special because it came with its very own tram tunnel, something never done
Stepford,
before or since.
This small but truly unique piece of track linking north to south meant that by 1914,
Stepford,
had the biggest tram network in Europe. Yes! But not for long.
After World War I, money was tight, and tram rails were expensive to maintain.
It was the beginning of the end for the tram.
Marples got councils to change their streets to make more room for cars, which meant cables had to be torn down.
Stepford,
London's vast network of trams would need to be replaced by trains.
Until then, the idea of getting
Trains
to take on such a big job was unthinkable.
Trains
It was small and heavy and noisy and inefficient. With diesel fuel now cheaper than ever, it was a no-brainer.
Trains
Began replacing tram routes all over.
Stepford,
The network's capacity was reduced slightly, but since passenger numbers were dwindling anyway, nobody cared. Well, lots of people cared and they were really upset about it, but nobody who mattered cared.
It was out with the and in with the. So, is there anything left
Stepford,
in the tram network that you can still see today? Well,
the platforms at Whitney Green are still intact.
eh.
Robinson Way still exists and it's a great place for spotting waterline trains.
Ooh.
Green Slade was recently upgraded and a refurbished stations.
Boring.
And of course, the Green Slade Tunnel.
So the answer is no, not really. Nothing impressive. With one massive exception. This is what's left of the
Green Slade
tunnel.
You can still see very, very, very clearly where the tram tunnel entrance used to be. Sometimes they open it up for tours, sometimes they use it as an art gallery, but at the moment it's being used to help construction.
And so the trams had gone.
Stepford,
Forgot about them. And so did the whole country. There's no avoiding it. Those overhead wires would still be fugly. But it's not just technology that's moved on, it's our priorities too. And if 21st century
Stepford.
Londoners finally get to breathe clean air, then those hideous wires might end up looking quite beautiful.
Hey, do you want to hear my new podcast?
No.
Great! It's called Mates Bounce with an 8 and a Z.
Hi, I'm Richard, and I'm not Richard. And welcome to Mates Bounce.
The audio quality is really terrible.
I knew I was no good at recording podcasts. I don't have the knowledge how to do it. I'm rubbish.
There. I have a solution for you. Why don't you sign up for a monthly subscription to Skillshare? Skillshare is an online learning tool where you can take a course about how to make podcasts sound good. Or if podcasts aren't the thing you want to get better at, there are courses about music production, or video editing, that's my favourite, or animation.
Oh my gosh, thank you. How can I ever repay you?
Just under $10 per month should do it. That's how much it costs for an annual subscription to Skillshare.
Stepford.
Hey, shush yourself!